Hey everyone, welcome to the Hey Hannah podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Maya Fields, but to my friends and those who know me well, I'm just Maya. I'm a higher education administrator, a mother, and a wife of 14 amazing years. But above all, I'm a Christ follower. This podcast is a special platform created to honor the memory of my beloved daughter, Hannah. It's here that I have the chance to have the conversations that I never got to have with her, to share the wisdom and love I wish I could have passed on. It's a reminder to cherish the precious moments we're given and a testament to the power of healing, hope, and personal growth. If you're someone who's seeking personal growth, inspiration, and practical advice to build a solid foundation for a successful and fulfilling life, this is a place for you. Join me as we honor Hannah's memory together. Laugh, cry, and learn. Get ready for a podcast that is so much more than you could ever imagine. The Hey Hannah podcast, healing hearts, one conversation at a time. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Hey Hannah podcast. So glad that you are continuing to join in each week, and I pray that you're learning something and you are being blessed by the content that we are putting out. So tonight we are talking about something that's important to every parent, really anyone who has children in their life in any capacity that they love, and that's about teaching our children about faith and values. We are still focused on purpose for the month of January. So, as we're focusing on purpose, I thought it was important that we covered the faith and values conversation for children, because that's really how we are setting the foundation for them as they start to figure out what their purpose is in life. So we are delving into the task of guiding our little ones in understanding um, our family values and your personal family values and faith, and instilling some strong moral values. So, whether you're deeply rooted in your faith or just beginning to explore, this episode is filled with insights and practical tips for every family. So, the first thing I want to get into is really laying the foundation and just starting with the basics. How do we introduce the concept of faith to our children? It's really about creating an environment where faith is just a natural part of your daily life. So it doesn't have to be anything where you're like, okay, pause, right now is our faith moment. No, it's really should be so intertwined in what you're doing all the time that you are just even inadvertently just pointing out faith examples in your daily life. So that can be, sharing stories or celebrating different traditions, just really letting them see your faith in action throughout your own practices. So we do a ton of shuttling with the boys because I mentioned before they do a ton of activities. So we spend a lot of time in the car. So what this might look like sometime for us, we're in a lot of traffic, we're trying to get somewhere. It may look like for me sometime a quick prayer. Lord, let us get to this practice safely and on time, so we can enjoy this practice that's coming up and my child can be prepared for the game this weekend. Very simple, probably something that would typically happen pretty naturally, especially when you're stuck in traffic or something. You know how frustrating that could be. But as you can see, it's an example of my faith in action and something that's just worked out in our daily life. And that's an example for my boys who are in the back seat. We hear all the time, children don't do what you say. They do what they see you do. So that example then becomes, you know, an example for them when they're figuring out, how do I maneuver tricky situations, or what does my faith look like when things are not going ideal for me? So just continuing to keep that in mind and making sure you're intertwining your faith examples into your everyday lives, especially in front of them. The other thing that you can do is really make sure that you're having age appropriate discussions with your children. As you all know, my guys are little, they are only 5 and 6. But as your children grow, remember that you want their understanding to deepen. We talk a lot about living things. I've said this a ton of times. Every living thing should be growing. So as your children get older, if you find yourself having the same faith conversation or the same explanation about different aspects of your faith, then maybe it's time to make sure that you are figuring out how to deepen those conversations, because they should be progressively becoming a little bit more complex as they get older. As your children get older, they're able to understand different concepts. And so you want to make sure that you are deepening their faith in those conversations as well. So you want to tailor those conversations about faith and values to their age and their comprehension. But again, make sure you're deepening those conversations as they do get older. And the Bible is full of parables. As we know, the greatest teacher of all, Jesus, taught in parables. So use those stories and parables to really illustrate complex ideas, especially if you are aiming to have your children to grasp the concepts, because that's what we're aiming for. You do want to make sure that you are encouraging questions. It's really just a key aspect of learning, is asking questions. I know sometimes, depending on which generation you're talking to, questions were sometimes seen as like a form of disrespect or lack of respect for authority, or really just like you don't ask questions. Just to put on my educator hat for a minute, asking questions is such a very strong part of making sure true learning and understanding is taking place. So if you are of the opinion that asking questions exhibits a form of disrespect, please take that little research tidbit, and hopefully that kind of smooths things for you, to let you know, like, questions, children asking questions, that's a good thing. That means they're trying to understand the ideas that are being presented. And when they get an understanding, when they are able to ask more questions, that's the better grasp they'll have on the concept that you are teaching. So you do want to encourage questions, encourage age appropriate questions, as I mentioned. Um, and encourage your kids to ask about your beliefs and your values, because even though you're teaching them about faith and values and what the family values, ultimately you want them to incorporate that into their faith and value system. There will become a time when they will no longer be able to live on your faith. It's going to have to be their faith that they're hanging on to. And so you want them to ask those questions and continue to grow into their faith. So eventually they're taking on those same beliefs and values as their own. The last thing I want to say, my last little tip, is make sure that you're living by example. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Children learn by observing. The best way to teach them values is by embodying those values yourself. So show kindness whenever you can, practice forgiveness, practice patience, and live out the principles of your faith. You should be constantly living an example of your faith in action, especially in front of your children. You can't preach about, oh, be kind, be kind, be kind, and then someone cuts you off in traffic and your car is going down. No, that can't be, the example that you're giving. You really have to make sure, okay, I'm preaching be kind, but also when, the rubber meets the road, I am showing that I'm doing that. I'm being kind. And if it's a struggle, that's another way to put your faith in action. Show your children, you praying or asking the Lord for help in that particular moment. Lord, I'm struggling. This is hard. I want to be kind, but they're pushing it. Can you give me a little extra patience, whatever it is, so I can, um, I can in this moment represent you well. Whatever it is, whatever the prayer requires. But that's another way that you can show, like, hey, we're all growing in faith. This is a journey for all of us. But you are again showing your children an example of, what your faith is built on, how it is a journey. You should always be growing and continuing to dive deeper into your faith, and you can show them those examples just in your everyday life. So make sure that you are using that time that you have with them to actually show your faith in action. And just to give you a few resources, and some takeaways. Our main takeaways today are creating a faith-filled environment. This is what I want to encourage you to do. This is what I want you to take away from this episode is I want you to be encouraged and be motivated to create a faith-filled environment. Make sure every aspect of your life reflects a form of your faith and your values. Having those open discussions, excuse me, encouraging curiosity and leading by example. These are the ways that you are going to create that faith-filled environment in your home. I'll tell you, we talk about obviously the importance of faith and values and making sure that you're modeling that and making it a priority for your children. But just to kind of drive things home, every decision that you make, and I've said this before, every decision that you make is a value decision. You make decisions daily based on the things that you value. That's the same thing that your children will do. But if they don't know what they value, if they don't understand what, their family framework is and what their family values, then what type of decisions are they going to be making? So if they don't know that, my family values kindness, and this is why kindness is important, when it comes to a time where they can choose to be kind or, make a joke at someone else's expense because, it's funny and I feel like it's going to get me attention, what are they going to decide to do? Because they don't know or they haven't established that kindness is of value. So, that's one of the main reasons it's so important to make sure we're driving home the value system of your family and creating that faith-filled environment. Another reason that I'll say, and probably one of the most important ones, is you want to make sure that you're consistently contributing to a strong foundation for your children. There will be a time that life is just going to rock you a little bit. That's a part of life. Your foundation shakes a little bit, and you want to make sure that your children have something to hold on to. One of the most loving things that we can do as a parent is give them the tools to sustain when we know life gets tough. um we know that as parents, we know as adults from just living and being here day to day that there are some times in life that just get tough. And so, as a good parent, wouldn't you want to prepare your child for that? Wouldn't you want them to have those tools for that? We live in the Midwest. We've had some snow lately, a good bit of snow. I'm not excited about it because I would rather be on the beach and have sun all the time. But that's not the case. We're experiencing some snow now, which is absolutely fine. But my oldest would prefer to wear shorts every day of the year if he had that option. It could be -20, and his desire would be to wear shorts. Now, I'm sure shorts are comfortable. I don't know why he loves shorts so much, but he just does. But when he asks me every day, can I wear shorts? And I see the temperature and it's -5, or I see snow on the horizon, even though I know shorts are comfortable for him, I have to say no. Because while he's thinking right now in his mind, like, oh, I just want to be comfortable and I want to wear these shorts, when he gets outside and it's snow everywhere, he is no longer going to be comfortable. He will then cry and talk about how cold he is and he's shaking. And while he does love shorts, I'm sure he's going to be pretty upset that he is not prepared for the weather. And so, as a parent, having that foresight, I know even though it's disappointing him, I have to let him know, like, no, buddy, you can't wear shorts today. We got to put on some sweatpants. It's, excuse me, it's snowing, whatever it is. Maybe you can wear shorts underneath. We'll find some way to compromise. But the main point I want to get across is, as a loving parent, I want my child to be prepared for what I know is coming. I see the weather report. I know the temperatures are going to be a little frigid. I want him to be prepared for that. I don't want him to be cold. I don't want him to be shaking. I don't want him to get sick. So, in short, my answer to him is no, you cannot wear shorts. And I know that's kind of like a watered down, not as serious of an example, but I want to drive home the point that we as adults know that life sometimes gets shaky. As a parent, please make sure that for the sake of your child being able to sustain, that you are implementing a value system, giving them a strong foundation, something that they can hold on to. And that goes back to creating that faith-filled environment. So there's a few other resources I want to give you. I'm always throwing out some stuff, some books or something that you all can pick up on. There's a book called Faithful Families. And it's really a great resource. And it really just explores, how you put that faith-filled environment into action. Keep in mind, this environment that you're creating, sharing your faith, exemplifying or identifying your value system for your children is not a one-size-fits-all model. You're going to have to try a few things and see what works. So that's why I want to share these resources with you, because you may find some ways in that book or any other resource that you're able to create that environment that you're hoping for within your family. So in closing, remember that teaching children about faith and values is a journey. It's about, planting a seed that will one day hopefully bloom into understanding, compassion, and a deep sense of purpose for your child. So I encourage you to have a conversation with your child about your faith this week. Share a story, share a tradition and why you all have that tradition and why it's a strong part of your faith, or simply answer their questions. And don't forget to share your experiences with your children as well. Some questions maybe you had or some ways that you've grown in your faith. Don't forget that we are on social media. So share with our community, Hannah's Hive, about some ways that you are creating that faith-filled environment in your home. Don't forget you can connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Hey Hannah Podcast. We are on all the platforms, and we want to hear how your faith environment is shaping up in your home. Thank you again for joining us on another episode of the Hey Hannah Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for more episodes that support, inform, and inspire you. We will be here at the same place, same time next week. And until next time, everybody, take care.
Then that's it. I'm out of here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Hey Hannah Podcast. We hope that you found inspiration, insight, and encouragement in our conversation today. If you enjoyed this episode and want to stay connected with us, be sure to like, subscribe, and review the Hey Hannah Podcast. Your feedback helps us reach more people and spread our message of love and wisdom. You can also follow us on social media at Hey Hannah Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to stay updated on all the latest episodes, behind-the-scenes exclusives, and engaging content. And for those of you who prefer the visual experience, catch the video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Just search Hey Hannah Podcast and hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode. For even more Hey Hannah goodness, Visit our website at www.heyhannahpodcast.com. There you'll find updates, bonus content, and join a community that embraces you with open arms. Your continued support truly means the world to us. Together, let's spread love, share wisdom, and honor every precious moment. Because here at Hey Hannah, we believe that life is meant to be lived well. Remember, a new episode of the Hey Hannah podcast is released every Wednesday, so mark your calendars and be sure to tune in. Thank you again for being a part of Hannah's Hive. Until next time, take care.
Entertainment. Entertainment.